Picture this, right? It is 1925, and a group of scientists finally get their hands on an actual physical spirit hand.
Oh, yeah, an appendage supposedly summoned straight from the great beyond.
Exactly. Brought forth during a pitch-black seance. So they take this glowing paranormal manifestation into a laboratory, to examine its ethereal properties.
Right, to measure the spiritual energy.
But it wasn't made of spiritual energy. It wasn't a manifestation of the human soul. It was, I really can't believe this, a carved-up piece of animal liver.
Yep, just raw meat.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today we are going on a deep dive into the incredibly bizarre, highly theatrical, and honestly heavily debunked history of communicating with the dead.
It is a wild history, yeah.
We have this massive stack of source material today, mostly comprehensive encyclopedia entries on the history and the controversies of mediumship. And our mission here is kind of cut through the fog to understand how on earth people believe this stuff.
We are definitely going to trace a timeline today, moving from, 19th century darkened rooms filled with flying tamarines.
And fake ghosts made of butter.
Literally butter, yes. Straight into the modern-day psychological traps that are hidden inside your social media algorithms.
Because it's not just history, it's happening right now.
Exactly. Because at its core, this claim-mediating communication between the living and the dead, it isn't just about paranormal parlor tricks.
Right.
It is this intricate, sometimes shocking study of the vulnerability of human grief and, the blind spots in our own psychology and just the meticulous art of illusion.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're going to pull off an illusion that lasts for over a century, you need a highly organized system, right?
You definitely do.
So to understand how these deceptions thrive for so long, we first have to look at the mechanics. Like, how do you actually convince a room full of people that a ghost is talking to them?
Well, our sources break down the two primary methods used historically. And they really couldn't be more different in their execution.
Right. You have physical and mental.
Yeah, practitioners divided their methods into these two main categories. So physical mediumship, that was the theatrical extravaganza.
The sensory-heavy experience.
Exactly. This is where the practitioner supposedly manipulates spiritual energies to create tangible manifestations right there in the room.
So we're talking like loud knocks echoing from the floorboards.
Heavy wooden tables levitating in the air.
Bells ringing seemingly on their own.
Then even full-body materializations.
Which is just wild to think about. And they achieved these materializations using a substance they called ectoplasm.
Right, ectoplasm.
Yeah.
Which they claimed was this divine energy generated from their very own cellular structure.
Which, I mean, just sounds incredibly messy and exhausting to fake.
Oh, it was a whole production.
And that brings us to the second category, right? Mental mediumship, which completely bypasses the physical props.
Yeah, mental mediumship is where the communication supposedly happens strictly via telepathy. The practitioner just, tunes their brain into the spirit world.
And what struck me in the sources is the terminology they used for this. It is incredibly granular. Like, they categorized every conceivable sensory input and attached a psychic equivalent to it.
Yeah, it wasn't enough to just say, I have a message from beyond. They mapped out specific psychic senses.
Right.
So you have clairvoyance, which means clear seeing, like perceiving objects or spirits in your mind's eye.
Okay, that one is pretty standard.
Then there's clairaudience, which is clear hearing, clairsentience, clear sensing of emotions.
But then it goes even further than that. The sources list clairalience, which is clear smelling.
Right, clear smelling.
Suddenly smelling the distinct pipe tobacco of your deceased grandfather in an empty room.
Exactly.
And then there's clairgustance, which is clear tasting.
Tasting a ghost.
Yeah, I have to say, looking at this list of clair senses, it reads less like a spiritual practice and more like, I don't know, an intricate magic system in a fantasy novel.
It really does.
It's like this spiritual superhero power set where you level up and suddenly unlock the ability to taste a ghost.
Right.
But I struggle to understand the logic here. Let me push back on this timeline a bit.
Sure.
If mental mediumship exists, if you can simply use telepathy to hear a message from the beyond, why on earth would anyone bother with the complicated physical stuff?
It's a great question.
Like, why risk getting caught faking ectoplasm or rigging up levitating tables if you could just sit comfortably in a chair and say, hey, your grandfather is speaking to me?
Well, what's fascinating here is the specific historical context of the audience sitting in those chairs.
Okay.
We have to rewind to the 19th century. Imagine the societal mindset of that era.
Right, the Victorian era.
Yeah, you have a population that is deeply rooted in religious faith. But simultaneously, they are colliding head-on with the undeniable, explosive wonders of material science.
Oh, right. The Industrial Revolution, early electricity.
Precisely. The invention of the telegraph proved that invisible signals could carry messages across continents.
Which must have seemed like magic at the time.
It absolutely did. And photography proved you could capture a moment in time permanently on a glass plate.
Yeah.
The harnessing of electricity made the invisible suddenly tangible. So for a society caught between ancient faith and modern science, a mental, telepathic message just wasn't enough.
Wasn't convincing enough.
No, they craved observable, measurable proof. Physical mediumship provided exactly what that era demanded. A scientific demonstration of the afterlife.
So it was basically profound Victorian entertainment.
Exactly. It satisfied their spiritual hunger while mimicking the new scientific methods of the time.
That paints a really clear picture. They wanted ghosts they could, put on a scale or photograph.
Tangible proof.
But man, if physical mediumship was fundamentally just cheap theatrical trickery, and I know we will get to the absurd details of those tricks, it raises a massive red flag for me.
Bitches.
Why did so many brilliant, highly educated people fall for it? I mean, the sources are packed with absolute geniuses who bought into this hook, line, and sinker.
The roster of intellects who championed these practices is staggering. And it really proves that belief wasn't limited to the uneducated or the merely gullible.
No, not at all.
We're talking about Nobel laureate Pierre Curie, the man who pioneered our understanding of radioactivity.
Wow.
He took a very serious scientific interest in the physical medium Eusapia Palladino, and you have the prominent, highly respected chemist William Crookes.
And most shockingly to me, Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yes.
The creator of Sherlock Holmes. He was one of the most vocal, global adherents of spiritualism, which is wild when you consider how the entire movement started.
Oh, the origin story is incredible.
Right. The sources point to the Fox sisters in 1848 New York. They basically kickstarted this massive movement with mysterious ghostly rappings that answered their questions in the dark.
Yeah, knocks from the beyond.
But then, 40 years later in 1888, Margaret Fox publicly confessed that the whole thing was a prank.
A childhood prank that went way too far.
Yeah. She and her sister were just cracking their toe joints against the wooden floorboards.
40 years of an international quasi-religious movement, sparking countless imitators, all originating from double-jointed toes.
Wait, let me stop you right there. The guy who invented Sherlock Holmes, the ultimate, enduring literary symbol of logic, deduction, and eliminating the impossible, couldn't spot a woman cracking her toe joints.
Apparently not.
Or spot someone faking a ghost in a parlor. I know brilliant people have blind spots, but how does a mind trained in observation just bypass reality so completely?
It feels like a paradox, doesn't it? But it gets to the very core of anomalistic psychology.
Okay, lay it on me.
Our sources bring up the crucial research of a psychologist named Albert Moll. He studied the specific environment of the seance.
The physical room itself.
Right. Moll argued that the physical setup itself bypassed a person's logical defenses before the supposed phenomena even began.
By turning off the lights.
Exactly. It's more than just a lack of light, though. When you are placed in a pitch-black room, it triggers a whole cascade of psychological effects.
Like what?
Well, it obscures your vision, which naturally elevates your heart rate and heightens your anxiety. You are sitting in silence, waiting for the unknown.
So your body is already on edge.
Yes. It creates a hypnotic, emotionally charged atmosphere where your sensory deprivation makes you hyper-suggestible.
And the sources mention the prestige of the people in the room playing a huge role, too.
Oh, that is the secondary psychological trap. If you are sitting in the dark and a Nobel laureate like Pierre Curie gasps and says, "The table is levitating,"
You're going to believe him.
you are going to doubt your own skepticism before you doubt the genius. It creates an echo chamber of validation.
Wow, yeah. I wouldn't want to be the one guy calling Pierre Curie a liar.
Exactly. But beyond the environmental psychology, we have to look at the neuroscience of grief.
Right, because a lot of these people were grieving.
Intelligence and deductive reasoning do not inoculate a person against cognitive dissonance.
They don't make you immune to heartbreak.
No, they don't. When Arthur Conan Doyle or anyone else attended these sessions after losing loved ones, they weren't utilizing the scientific method. They were desperately seeking solace.
They just wanted to talk to their family again.
The human brain is a pattern-seeking machine, and when it is flooded with the immense emotional weight of grief, the desire for comfort can effectively override the prefrontal cortex.
The logic center.
Right. A brilliant mind doesn't debunk the illusion in that state. It actively uses its immense processing power to rationalize and defend what the heart desperately wants to be true.
That is incredibly powerful. The brain basically weaponizes its own genius to defend the illusion.
Beautifully put, yes.
But, let's shine a light on those illusions,
Yeah.
because your explanation of that sensory-deprived, hypnotic room makes me wonder what was actually happening under the cover of darkness.
Oh, it's pure chaos.
Our sources hold nothing back here. The era of exposés reveals a level of audacity that is genuinely jaw-dropping.
The scientific and skeptical investigations into these physical manifestations revealed a reality that was both completely absurd and shockingly rudimentary.
Let's run through the actual biology and material reality of these props, because, you cannot make this stuff up. We mentioned ectoplasm earlier.
The divine cellular energy.
Right. When debunkers actually grabbed it, it was frequently revealed to be made of cheesecloth, butter, and muslin.
Literal butter.
Yes. You have the practitioner, Helen Duncan, right? She would literally swallow yards of cheesecloth before a sitting.
She would just ingest it.
Yeah, and then she would regurgitate it in the dark to mimic ectoplasm. And she used a papier-mâché doll draped in a dirty sheet to represent a fully materialized spirit.
And returning to Albert Moll's theory of the dark room, because the room was almost entirely blacked out, that regurgitated cheesecloth and papier-mâché would faintly catch the absolute dimmest sliver of light.
So it glowed a little bit.
Right. To an audience whose brains are emotionally primed and terrified, a floating doll looks like a spectral visitation.
It's wild.
The practitioners relied entirely on the absolute refusal of believers to break the rules of the seance.
Well, the poet Robert Browning definitely broke the rules.
Yeah.
And it resulted in my absolute favorite anecdote from the sources.
It is a classic.
So in 1855, Browning and his wife attended a sitting with the incredibly famous Daniel Douglas Home.
A huge name in the field.
Huge name. So in the pitch black, Home claims a spirit face is materializing. He tells Browning it is the spirit of his dead infant son.
Which is such an emotional manipulation.
Right. But Browning, refusing to play along, reaches out into the dark and grabs the materialization. And he discovers he's holding the practitioner's bare foot.
He grabbed a foot?
A bare foot. And to make it infinitely worse, Browning had never even lost a son in infancy.
Oh.
Yes. Home was just throwing out a tragic guess and shoving his foot into a famous poet's face.
It perfectly illustrates the intense physical dexterity required to pull these stunts off, though. These individuals were essentially acrobats in the dark.
They really were.
They were slipping out of complex rope knots, taking off their shoes to manipulate objects with their toes, and using telescopic reaching rods hidden in their sleeves.
Oh, and don't forget Anna Roth.
Oh, right.
She was caught hiding live birds and over 150 flowers in her petticoats to, quote-unquote, manifest them later.
150 flowers. It's absurd.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. When you look at their actual methodologies, slipping out of restraints, utilizing secret compartments, working with hidden accomplices, these Victorian practitioners were essentially early-stage magicians.
Yes, absolutely.
But instead of standing on a stage and saying, "Watch me perform a trick," they were running a real-time interactive haunted house attraction and claiming it was the literal divine truth.
And that direct connection to stage magic is exactly the mechanism that brought about their downfall.
Because it takes a magician to catch a magician.
Precisely. The rise of professional debunkers was largely driven by actual magicians. You had legendary illusionists like Harry Houdini and Chung Ling Soo.
Right, Houdini was famous for this.
And they quickly realized why the scientific community was failing to expose the fraud. They understood that scientists like Pierre Curie or William Crookes were actually the worst possible people to test these claims.
It's because scientists expect nature to play by the rules. Like, if I am a chemist mixing two compounds in a beaker, the beaker isn't actively trying to deceive me.
You hit the nail on the head. A scientist designs an experiment assuming the materials are passive and honest.
Right.
Only someone extensively trained in the art of deception, a stage magician, knows how to spot the misdirection, the hidden threads, and the trap doors of another deceiver.
Magicians knew exactly where to look when the lights went out.
Exactly. They knew all the tricks.
And as the sources point out, it wasn't just Houdini throwing the lights on. It was the invention of literal technological light that ended the party.
Photography strikes again.
Yeah. The rise of the camera and, crucially, infrared film made physical manifestations completely unsustainable.
It changed everything.
There's this incredible moment detailed in 1960 at a spiritualist community called Camp Chesterfield.
Oh, this is a great example.
Researchers brought in infrared film and caught the practitioner and her assistant just blatantly walking around in the dark, faking materializations.
Right, red-handed.
You simply cannot wave a carved piece of animal liver or a papier-mâché doll at a camera lens that sees in the dark.
Technology forced an evolutionary pivot.
It had to.
Physical manifestations became far too risky and too easily disproven by a simple photograph. So the entire industry pivoted heavily back to mental mediumship.
No more floating tables, no more regurgitated cheesecloth.
Nope. Just a person, a microphone, and a grieving audience.
Which brings us to the psychological traps of the modern era. Because they might have dropped the butter and muslin, but the deception didn't stop. It just modernized its toolkit.
Very much so. Our texts break down the two primary techniques that dominate modern mental mediumship: cold reading and hot reading.
Let's start with cold reading.
Okay, so cold reading is a highly sophisticated art form of observation, body language analysis, and statistical guessing.
So they don't know anything about you beforehand.
Right. The practitioner looks at the sitter's clothing, their posture, their age demographic, and makes high probability but incredibly vague statements.
Right. They fish for information. They throw out something like, I'm sensing a father figure who experienced a tightness in his chest.
Yes.
Which sounds profound until you realize how massive a demographic that covers. Almost anyone's father or grandfather who passed away from a heart condition, or honestly just old age, fits that description.
And this relies on a well-documented psychological phenomenon called the Barnum effect, heavily reinforced by subjective confirmation.
Okay, let's unpack this. How does that actually work in the brain? Like, why doesn't the sitter just say, that's a generic guess?
Because evolutionarily, our brains are hardwired for pattern recognition and self-reference.
We want things to be about us.
Exactly. We naturally seek meaning in chaos to navigate the world. So when a practitioner throws out a vague statement, your brain subconsciously scans your entire memory bank to find a match.
Searching for that tight chest connection.
Right. And when you find one, your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine for solving the puzzle.
Oh, wow. So you end up doing all the heavy lifting for the practitioner.
You do. You confirm the detail, your body language shifts, a nod, a gasp, a tear. And that signals the practitioner that they hit a nerve.
And then you just forget all the misses.
Exactly. You remember that one accurate hit vividly, and your brain completely discards the 20 inaccurate guesses that came before it.
So cold reading is essentially weaponizing our own evolutionary pattern recognition against us.
It really is.
But then you have hot reading, which feels much more malicious, because there's no guessing involved at all.
No, hot reading is when the practitioner acquires specific information about the sitter before the reading ever begins.
Cheating, basically.
Historically, in the 20th century, this meant having an accomplice eavesdrop on conversations in the waiting room, or the practitioner spending hours skimming local obituaries and telephone directories.
But today, in the digital age, hot reading has become an entirely different beast.
Oh, it's so much easier now.
And our sources highlight a modern expose from 2017 that is just brilliantly executed.
The Thomas John sting.
Yes. Skeptical activist Susan Gerbic and mentalist Mark Edward set a digital honeypot for a prominent practitioner named Thomas John.
It was so clever.
They recognized that modern psychics use the internet, right? So they created fake Facebook profiles under the aliases Susanna and Mark Wilson.
And they populated these profiles with highly specific, completely fictional details.
They invented a dead twin brother named Andy, a fake girlfriend, and specific tragic causes of death.
They essentially built a completely fabricated digital footprint. Then, using those fake identities, they attended one of Thomas John's shows.
And the trap snapped shut perfectly. John gave them a reading that flawlessly matched the fake Facebook details.
Every single one.
He confidently communicated with the non-existent dead twin brother, Andy. He nailed every specific heartbreaking detail that only existed on those falsified social media pages.
He didn't read their minds.
No. And he certainly wasn't talking to the dead. He was talking to a search engine. I mean, modern practitioners are essentially just live-action data brokers at this point.
That is a very accurate description.
They traded in their telescopic reaching rods and levitation tables for social media algorithms. The tools changed, but the fundamental grift is exactly the same.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this digital sting operation perfectly illustrates why scientific tests of mental mediums consistently fail.
Right. when they are actually tested.
When you subject a psychic to a properly controlled double-blind test, meaning they are completely isolated from the clients, there are zero visual cues to facilitate cold reading, and there is absolutely no way to research names beforehand for hot reading. Their success rates plummet.
They just tank.
They become statistically indistinguishable from random chance. The phenomena completely disappear the second the psychological and informational tools are restricted.
Wow.
It is a masterclass in applied psychology and data gathering, not paranormal ability.
So what does this all mean? After unpacking this massive timeline, after seeing the Fox sisters spark a religion by cracking their toes, after Robert Browning getting kicked in the face in the dark, and Thomas John getting busted by a fake Facebook page, I want you to consider something.
It's the big question.
Why does this industry still thrive today? Despite centuries of exposed frauds, fake feet, and digital honeypots, people are still packing massive theaters and paying thousands of dollars for private readings.
It points to a profound, unyielding vulnerability in the human condition.
Yes. And this deep dive isn't just about mocking old parlor tricks or laughing at people who thought a piece of butter was a ghost.
No, not at all.
It's a striking lesson in what happens to our critical thinking when we are grieving. If you are desperate for answers, or if you just want one last moment of connection with someone you love deeply, the logical part of your brain is easily overridden by hope.
The industry survives and thrives because human grief is universal, and the desire for closure is arguably the most powerful emotion we possess.
It's heartbreaking, really.
It is, and this raises an important question, and it's a final provocative thought I want to leave you with today to mull over.
Okay.
If you look at the entire history we just discussed, mediumship hasn't just survived. It has constantly evolved to match the cutting-edge technology of its era.
Right.
In the 1800s, when the telegraph was connecting the world, they used spirit wrappings. When cameras emerged, they manipulated photographic plates.
And when the internet arrived, they scraped your social media data.
The deception always adapts to the tools available.
It's an endless technological arms race.
So as we enter an era defined by artificial intelligence, automated data processing, and hyper-realistic deepfakes, what does the next generation of hot reading look like?
Oh, wow.
When an algorithm can scrape your entire digital footprint and generate an audio clone perfectly mimicking your deceased loved one's voice in milliseconds, will the ghosts of the future be channeled through AI?
Man, that is a terrifying thought. We started this journey looking at fake ghosts made of cheesecloth and a carved animal liver. The props used to be something you could physically reach out and grab in the dark.
You could grab the foot.
Exactly. But if the next iteration of this deception hides invisibly inside a black box algorithm, the ultimate question is, how will we ever turn the lights on next time?